Do that again. Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk to you guys about daily routine, what it is, what mine is, how I explain a daily routine, and how I relate that to singing through music. So, daily routine is something similar to me, how I think of it is stretching. Like you stretch before a workout to make the working out easier so you don't damage anything and so you don't like do anything weird to your body. Um, Daily routine is sort of like the same thing. Like you don't want to go playing like up all the way up there when you haven't even like moved your face at all. It'd be like trying to bench 400 pounds when you haven't even like done the bar or like warmed up, whatever your warm up may be. Anyway, it's to help you get better at trombone in a way and to help it trombone playing be easier. Like my routine as of right now consists a lot of articulation exercises, and that's not because I like working on articulation exercises, but that's because that's what I need the most work on. So I try to touch on it in my routine more than the other things. Like lip slurs, I'm pretty good at lip slurs, so I don't touch on them as much because that's not what I need to work on. So I start my daily routine with some simple playing on the piano because, yes, as a routine is to help you extend your ability to play the trombone or whatever instrument you may play. It's also to help your ears warm up because your ears aren't active all the time. If they were, you'd be able to hear like everything and be like, oh, that's whatever pitch, or at least notice the pitches, but you're not always thinking in the musician mindset. So you have to get into that mindset, I think. So let's start B flat. And I'll do that up and down until I reach the octave. So what I want to do there is to just play the scale, get it in my ear, hum the scale while playing it, and then be able to hum the scale without playing it. And on the occasion, that's something I've been working on recently because I can't really translate my tuning with a drone or with a piano to my instrument. So that's something me and my professor have been working on. So it's just something I like to do at the beginning before I even play any notes, just because I think it's important to get your ears working. If your ears aren't working, how are you going to play the most beautiful concert F or concert B flat you can when you can't even think of what the note is? So that's a good way to start. Let's move. After I do that, which usually takes me around 5 to 10 minutes, I like to go and in front of a mirror. Here, I'm sitting in front of a mirror. I do that because I like to watch my armature, watch what I'm doing, how I'm breathing, because I want to make sure everything is working correctly. I can't just go willy nilly with my daily routine because I do it every day, so it should be easy. It's probably the hardest thing I do every day because every day I want to work on it to get better, and I want to just do something better than I did the day before. Just improve on what I couldn't do yesterday. Like if I couldn't get a really good lip slur yesterday, I'll try to do it today. And you know, Christian Lindbergh says you should only give yourself 2 tries. So like if you're doing a lip slur, F to B flat, and you can't get it on the second try, you just move on. I feel like there's some truth to that. You don't want to be stuck and trying to keep doing the same thing over and over again. You'll build a really bad habit of playing wrong. So I start my warm up or my daily routine with a piano. Then I like to move on to some breathing and some basic stretches while I move my body, just stuff like that. Sometimes I like to breathe while I'm playing the piano just to get some of those 2-in-1 action. But after that, I'll do a B flat. Just trying to go right to the center of that note. Right there, it kind of swelled a little bit, and that's an issue I've been working on recently, but I just want to get to the center of that note. Best beautiful sound, best articulation I can. do that a couple times, 2 or 3 times until I feel like I have the concert B flat down. Then I'll move down and do long tones. And as you get farther out, you want to keep the same sound, same front, same breathing, same everything as you did on this first B flat. Because if your approach to that B flat and this G are different, there's no point in you even moving on if you can't play the G with the best sound you could, like you did the B flat. After I do that, I'll go all the way down to U. I'll go up to F. And just do the same thing down to B natural. Here's where it gets a little weird. A lot of people usually move on to lip slurs, I feel like, but I'll do a little bit more long tones. I'll go here. Sort of just an extended Remington, as band directors like to call it. Just to get my lips moving through those partials before I do lip slurs, I like to do the smaller partials, because just doing open lip slurs in any position, the interval there is a bit wider, and I don't feel comfortable doing that right away. So I'll do that up until the octave. Something along those lines. Then I'll move on to lip slurs, because I feel like that's when I'm ready. Big thing is, you just don't want to overdo it. You want to simplify it as much as possible. You want to make it easy. The daily routine, I feel like, is the hardest part, because that's when I am trying to improve the most, in the sense that, like, that's where I'm hyper focusing on all the things I'm doing wrong. Sometimes in music, I'm trying to focus on, like, how the phrase goes, or just something else that isn't as important as your fundamentals. Because if your articulation isn't right, if your timing isn't right, if your tuning isn't right, no one cares how musical you are. Or if you have bad tone, like, no one cares how musical you are. If it sounds bad, if it's not, in time, or at least sounds good, like, no one's going to want to hear that. So it's important to work on that, and which is why I feel like my daily routine is the hardest, because that's when I truly focus on that 110%. After I do those basic lip slurs, I'll do these flow studies. Again, just aiming for smooth air, just like a water faucet. Just aiming for the best sound I can, and just trying to transfer my sound that I started with on the B flat, and just moving it up and moving it down. Because if I can't do that, then I feel like I should move on. And sometimes one exercise takes longer than the other, because my face is feeling weird. A lot of the times I'm just having, like, weird face days, so I usually just have to do more intense lip slurs to open those up, open my lips up, warm them up more. But I've been having good days recently, so maybe I don't need to do that as much. Then, after what's probably like 20-25 minutes. That's when I do articulation work. I don't like doing articulation work early. Usually I like to do air starts, or I like to do articulation at the front of the note, just the first note, but never anything past that. I just don't feel like I just think it's too much, you know. You just at first want to focus on your sound, then you want to focus on your technique, like your slide technique. Then you always want to focus on tuning, of course, but then I feel like you want to focus on your articulation. Like you want to add things to your playing. You don't want to start where it's hardest, because then it's like, you get so overwhelmed. You want to build up to it. Your brain has to be ready. So then I'll do some articulation. I didn't really like that. So I do it again. I just didn't feel like the notes were clear. The front was there. Felt like it was okay, but it definitely could have been better. You always have to be aware, you know, whether it be recording yourself or just actively listening as hard as you can to be like, did I really like that? Or am I just accepting what I sounded like? You want to aim for more every day. Sometimes you obviously have days that you go backwards. That's okay. The next day you have to aim for more. And if you go backwards, and if you continuously go backwards, then maybe you should reevaluate what your daily routine is, because maybe you're doing something wrong. Because, if you're practicing diligently and intently and smartly and you're not wearing yourself out, then you should make progress. And obviously there are bad days and sometimes even bad weeks, but I don't think I've ever had a time where I progressively felt like I was getting worse for like longer than a week. But that's just me personally. Everyone's different. Then after I do articulation on all the scales, that's when I like to do more intense lip slurs. So I'll go like something like that, or do those. Then I'll do shift work or octave work. Same as lip slurs, but here I'm focusing more on keeping this as stable as I can. Obviously, there's going to be some movements, but the most efficient way you can do it is the best way. And you want to experiment with that every day. So I like to do octaves. I'll start on F, above the staff. And I'll just go down the F scale. Trying to eliminate any weird bumps or discrepancies or inconsistencies in my sound. Just when I'm doing that, I feel like that's how I do that best. That one's a little weird, but I'll move on for now. Just trying to get everything in my routine, Then after that, I'll do some range work. I'll do 2 octave arpeggios, and I'll do 2 octave arpeggios going up, and then I'll just do some lip slurs going down. Like always, just trying to eliminate any weird shifting or any unnecessary movement in my face, my lips, my breathing, just trying to make sure it's all the same or as consistent as it can be. Because if you're changing how you play on every single partial, it's going to be really hard for you to play anything that isn't like super easy, you know? So it's just important to include, you know, the things that you're not the best at. And I feel like I like doing those the most in my daily routine because obviously those need the most improvement. So I do those the most. You want to hit your top note, whatever that note may be, whether it's at B flat above the staff or B flat 3,000 octaves above that, and low B flat. You just want to hit those notes because you want to get better at them. And if you don't play them every day, then you just won't get better at them. That's just how it is. So, how does this relate to singing, or how does this relate to musicality? You know, it just, if you don't have a good fundamental playing in your like trombone, you just won't be able to sing, in my opinion. Like if you're playing a piece of music and it just has crazy articulations that are just going up and down the scales, and you like can't do it for whatever reason, then you're not going to be able to do anything musical with it. You may like get small bits and pieces, but you're never going to actually be able to sing through it. And what does singing through it mean? We as people, we're used to naturally talking, so we're not taking any weird breaks between when we talk or anything like that. So when you sing, it's just the same way. Like your voice naturally does what it's supposed to when we're singing, because we're so used to just talking as people, at least in our native language. I know for people that know more than one language, the other language isn't as good, but that's something else. So every day I like to play a tune. There's good videos out there. There's Charlie Vernon playing Amazing Grace. There's Charlie Vernon playing Rochut Number 2. Just a tune that isn't terribly hard, that you enjoy playing. I like to do that in my daily routine just to get the singing part out. So just trying to make that as musically as I can. And if I don't hit all the little things I hit in my daily routine, I just don't feel like I can really sing that like I want to. So, how do you get to the ability to sing that if you aren't at like a professional level? That's a really difficult question. I feel like I had trouble expressing music for a really long time, or at least becoming myself through music. Like there's obviously great recordings out there of pretty much any trombone solo you can think of that has good phrasing, or that has things that you like in there musically wise. But it never really feels like, at least to me it didn't, it never really felt like that was me. I always felt like, oh, I'm just copying this guy, and I don't even sound half as good as him, so like why do I have the freedom or the right to do that? I didn't really ever understand that. And now that I'm getting older and I'm getting more mature as a player, I realize it isn't that you're copying them or just trying to be like them. You're just using their knowledge as a trombone player, like their ability to play trombone, to expand your own ability, right? So let's say you're in high school and like this is the range of playing in terms of ability, skill, like all that. For a professional, it's this. You're like here, maybe your musicality is here. If you don't expand that, you're only going to ever be here. But if you never look at the full thing, you're always going to be like, oh, well, this is the best thing. If you're first sure, then this is the best thing you can do. But if you're always trying to expand and listen to great players, you'll get a great perspective of what is capable for trombone. But that doesn't really answer the question. How do you become musical? How do you put yourself into the music? Well, I think a big thing is stepping away from the instrument, becoming a person, a lot of us dedicated musicians are so focused on just playing the best we can and just being the best trombonist that we can that some of us start to sort of become robotic in a sense. I don't mean that in an offensive way, but a lot of us just focus so much on the trombone that we forget to go and like enjoy life. There's a great interview with Yo-Yo Ma. He's talking to the interviewer like, oh, when he was having lessons, I forget who he was having lessons with at the time. He was really young. He's like, oh, you're a great cello player, but why don't you go out and play baseball? And then Yo-Yo Ma talks about how it's important to be a person, a musician, then a celloist for him. But for us obviously, it's trombone. And I didn't really understand that for the longest time. I was just like, what does playing baseball have to do with the cello? And I realized the reason Yo-Yo Ma is so musical, I think, is because at a young age, he was, learning the cello and got really good at it. So I guess he was able to experience life differently because it's like he was already a successful musician, or at least in my eyes, successful. He experienced life in such a different way, but he still experienced life. So he was actively becoming more of a person every day while getting better at the cello. So that ultimately affected his ability to phrase things differently than I think a lot of cello players. So yeah, just stepping away from the trombone, going out and experiencing life, telling stories. And it's really important to be a good storyteller, I feel. Like I don't think I'm really great at telling stories, but I feel like it is important to be good at that. Because if you can tell stories verbally with your voice, or if you can sing stories, like whatever that may look for you, then I feel like you can translate that into playing the trombone. Like if you're playing an etude that's like really, really harsh, it's like really mean sounding, but you don't really have any experiences where you could really understand or comprehend what that emotion or feeling may be like, you'll never be able to do it. Like you may get all the right articulation, you may get the right tone, but you'll never have what people call it. Like Joe Alessi has it, James Markey has it. They're just players. You can listen to them and you hear in their sound, like, oh, that's Joe Alessi. Oh, that's James Markey. A big part of that does come with how much they practice, how hard they work, the teachers they had, but they also experienced life. They're more than just trombone players. You should look at a piece of music and obviously think of the notes, think of the rhythms, think of everything you need to work on. But when I look at a solo, I think, what story is this trying to portray? So right now I'm playing the Rom Concerto for bass trombone. And in the second movement, it's all romantic. It's called Romance. The second movement is. Ah. And I look at that phrase and I'm like, I wonder what all of this leads to. Like, obviously, there's your music theory that has the chord structure and all of that and what it could actually lead to. But then you have the actual notes. You have feelings. You have your own feelings. You have the feelings that come from the composer. You take that all into consideration. You make a story for it. So there, just in that first opening line, I think, maybe this is someone confessing their love to someone else. And maybe they're sort of struggling how to articulate that, which is why it's sort of just like this slower phrase instead of something a bit more active. Because, oh, well, I don't know how to say this, but I love you, which is why. I should really be looking at the music. I'm doing that off of memory. But point being is that, during that triplet section, I think, oh, this is him really starting to show what he truly feels like. Maybe he was nervous to tell her at first or tell them at first, you know? But you have to know what that's like. If all you're doing is playing trombone, do you even know what that feeling could be like? That feeling of joy, that feeling of happiness, that feeling of sorrow, that feeling of anger, that feeling of anxiousness. If you can't experience that, explain that to yourself or explain that to your peers, I don't feel like you can ever actually be successful in the sense to portray it with your music. Another great example is like the Rom the Third movement. It's sort of like this more groovy, just like you have to make a story for the notes you're playing. They're not just vibrations of sound. There's emotion, there's feeling. There's a reason those specific notes were picked by the composer. And there's a reason you're playing those specific notes now. Maybe you just like the piece, you know? But try to create a story. So for me, there, I'm thinking, oh, this is like a bit more groovy. Maybe the confession worked in the second movement and now they're like all dancing and having fun or whatever. Whatever that is for you, whatever piece you're playing, just listen to as many examples as you can of professionals and anyone, and obviously take normal phrasing into advice, like with the chord structure, but go out and experience life. It is such a weird thing because I know a lot of us as dedicated musicians, which is probably why you're watching this video, because maybe you're curious on the topic and you're a dedicated musician, but you know, you hit this wall, you're like, man, I rely on my instrument for happiness, or I rely on my singing, piano, or you know, whatever you do for happiness. And it's wrong, I feel like. Yes, you can have trombone as your outlet, right? Like I love playing trombone because it calms me down. It's something I know that I can do, that I try to do every day, and I try to be successful at. And that makes me happy because I work hard at it. But it shouldn't be my only source of happiness, and that's something I struggle on even now. Like I feel like, oh man, if I don't play trombone today, like, oh, I'm gonna like lose my mind. Like genuinely feel that way sometimes. You have to find a way to experience and enjoy life without the instrument. I'm not saying don't practice. Like, yes, you should practice. But if you can't enjoy your life without your instrument, then you're solely relying on your instrument, and that's codependency. The instrument is an amplifier of you. It is an amplifier of who you are as a person. It is an amplifier of what you want to say, what you want to sing through notes without the voice, you know, without your words. But if you're solely relying on your instrument for this, you know, it gets frustrating because you're like, what if you have a bad playing day? Now your whole day is ruined because your only source of happiness is gone down the drain. So, yeah, I mean, you just have to find a way to enjoy trombone, but not so much that you rely on it fully. You know, I feel like that's such a hard concept to grasp, and I'm not there yet, but I feel like once I do get there, my trombone playing will alter a lot because I'll be able to practice trombone even on a bad day, on a good day, on a weird day. Even if I have bad playing days, good playing days, whatever, I'll be able to play trombone and think, what a relaxing thing it is to just play the trombone. So, yeah, you know, daily routine's important because it helps to expand your ability to play the trombone and make the trombone easier. And living life is what gives you the ability to express yourself outside of just the normal, you know, chords and all of that. That's just personally the only way I found to express myself. It's just live life, and when you look at a piece of music, you tell a story. You tell your own story. Be good at storytelling vocally, then transfer it to the trombone. If you can make a story up, it doesn't have to be a real story. Make a story up for the piece you're playing and you know, be able to play the piece. Be able to play the notes and rhythms. If you can't play the notes and rhythms, you're not going to be able to express yourself because you're just worried about the notes and rhythms. Be able to play those. Then focus on expressing it. Like, yes, you can focus on the musicality of it while you're playing, but when you truly want it to be your piece or your creation, you should be able to play those perfectly. Like, every time you'll like play it, you're like, okay, I got it. Like, you should feel 100% confidence in your ability to play whatever piece that may be, which is why I like to do in my daily routine something really easy. I feel confident that I could do that every day and express my true emotions, whatever those emotions may be that day, into my playing, because it's easy and I did a good routine. And even if I had a bad playing day, I know I could play it because of that. So yeah, I hope this helps, go out and experience life, go out and throw a baseball around or hang out with your friends. Just truly experience life. And then next time you approach a piece, try thinking of what those notes are trying to tell. What are you trying to tell the audience? And remember, music is for the audience, but the first audience member is you, because you're the first person that will hear that sound. You are the person that hears or has heard that sound every single day. So don't take yourself for granted. You're just as important as the people you are playing for, if not more. Thank you. Hope this helps.